and spiritual growth, especially when there's like communities that kind of crop up, they become playgrounds for the child ego state. And what happens is when they go into the community, the child ego state becomes kind of confected, right? It becomes like the thing. And then they get, and maybe their child doesn't get a lot of fun in other areas of life. And so this is the child's time to talk nonsense, basically, and just kind of do. And people are very often reluctant to incorporate their adult ego state, their adult reasoning, functioning capacities into their personal growth work. Because somewhere inside there's a part of the, it's kind of like if you made a deal with yourself that said, okay, at nighttime, I've done a lot of hard work, I've done my personal growth, I've done all this different stuff, but when I settle down into my bed at night, I'm going to read my fantasy novel. And I'm just going to read my fantasy novel, and I'm not going to allow considerations of what I should be doing or thoughts about how I ought to be 10xing my whatever, I'm just going to have fun reading this fantasy novel. Think about how much you would resent intrusions of adult reasoning capacity into the narrative of this fantasy story. Because essentially it's an escape. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, though, when you take your car to the mechanic, like you rely on this vehicle for safe, reliable transport to jobs, to visit family, things that are important to you. It's very important, this function, right? When you take your car to the mechanic, you don't really have a lot of emotional resistance to the mechanic having a very adult explanation about what's wrong. The filter's here and the plugs are here and then this is here and this is wrong, and if we can fix this, if we can get rid of this, and if we can add this in, if we can replace this, if we can realign these things, and if we can do, that's what you want to hear, because you expect that. When you go to the mechanic, there's this expectation that, like, okay, I'm going to go into my adult ego state here, I'm going to gather information, I'm going to process that information, and I'm going to then make an informed decision about what to do on the basis of that information. I think for a lot of people, it becomes difficult for them to find, or to seek out, to find, to accept really powerful personal growth stuff, because at some level they have been conditioned, or they have made a deal with themselves, or there's this implicit kind of thing that the personal growth stuff is supposed to appeal to the most kind of archaic aspects of their personality. I want to be told that I'm fine, and I want to be told that everything's okay, and I want to be told that I don't really need to do anything, and the only thing I need to do is just do less, and I just want to hear the, and I don't want terms that are too precise, and I don't want terms that require any kind of thought. I just want things that kind of tickle my emotional centers. That's all I want. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that stuff necessarily, but if you have an inability, you've seen this, right? We'll sit down with someone whose life is shit. They can't fucking have a relationship. They can't even sit by themselves. They can't figure out how they've been to this workshop and that workshop, and they've read this book, and they're coddling their inner child, and they're taking that little brat out to milkshakes all the time and getting Happy Meals, and it's still not happy. Everything's going wrong, and they're trying all that soft stuff, and it's not working. Their life's a disaster. And so they say, can you please help me with this? And as soon as you sit down and you start talking about things that are real and things that are happening here and now, and as soon as you start using really precise language to describe what it seems like they might be doing, and on the basis of that, what it seems like they might benefit from starting to consider trying to do differently, their eyes just glaze over, because that part of their brain has never, the adult, smart, data processing, rational thinking part of their brain, when this subject matter comes up, it says, oh, I can go on my break. And it goes on the break. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? Because my work's not appreciated here. You've been in conversations like that before, where you can just tell that your input's not going to be appreciated, and so you just sort of just kind of go into a little trance and just enjoy a little downtime. The thinking part of the brain just turns off. And it's not that people aren't smart enough to understand it. I've heard people will even say this. They'll deprecate their own capacity as an excuse not to listen. People have said that to me. Oh yeah, you're too smart, or this is just too intellectual, or I prefer the kind of touchy-feely thing. And it's like, okay, you prefer it, but is it working for you? You prefer that exercise program, but is it producing the results that you want? And if it's not, maybe you should do something different and see if it gets you the results that you want. You know what I'm saying? And I think but people, they're not making a conscious choice not to do that. They don't realize it. They don't realize what's happening. And I think that one of the things that kind of really sort of annoys me about so much of the stuff that you see that's just vacuous, saccharine, platitudinal nonsense. It's instead of get up off of that couch and go create the life that you want, it's put the spiritual cushion under your ass so it's more comfortable to stay there. So much of that stuff, they're couch broken. Like remember when Behrman talk about like your patient being couch broken, they learn how to do psychiatry, they learn how to do therapy, and it becomes a pastime basically, rather than an activity designed to create functional changes in a person's life. So much of this stuff is a pastime. It's a hobby. I look forward to this seminar. You saw this in chiropractic with all these things, right? Looking forward to that seminar and this seminar, and it ceases to be something that you're going to for a real practical reason, and it becomes a ritual. It becomes a pastime. It becomes something that you layer on to the life that you have, rather than something that penetrates into that life and really kind of changes it from the inside out.